Hey guys, welcome into another edition of the Shelby County High School Football Weekend Review. My name is Alec Etheridge. I'm the sports editor here at the Shelby County Reporter. You may notice that my attire is a little bit different today than other episodes that we've done in the past. This is a Longboat Key, Florida t-shirt. Actually just got back from vacation there a couple months back in July. They are expected later today. It's just south of the Tampa area. Expected the eye of Hurricane Irma to go right over this area. It's a very fragile area for storms like this. My dad's from down there. I have friends in Miami, the Fort Lauderdale area, and they're just getting bad weather right now from this terrible hurricane. So my thoughts and prayers are with everybody down there. It actually looks like the storm's going to be making its way up into Alabama along the east side against the Georgia-Alabama border, and we could be affected here in Shelby County more than they expected originally. So everybody just be safe out there. My thoughts and prayers are with everybody in Florida today. This is being recorded on Sunday. Hopefully later tonight it'll be done and over with, but just want everybody to be safe and on the lookout here locally as well. Other than that, we've got some great high school football from this past Friday night to recap, and even more. I've hyped up a lot of things here since I've taken over as the sports editor, whether it be soccer, basketball, baseball, moving into football season now. But this upcoming Friday night of high school football games in Shelby County may be the best that I've seen. So I'm not going to spend too much time looking back at this past week simply because there were a lot of blowouts. There were a couple of close games, but mostly blowouts this past week, whether it be a win or a loss. So we'll basically dive in. We'll give a quick score recap from this past week, and we'll look ahead to the big matchups that we have coming up this Friday night. And we're actually going to have two games of the week this week because they are simply that great this Friday. So we'll start that right now. We'll look ahead to what everybody's got coming up this Friday night. We'll also name our next SCR Star of the Week from this past Friday night. There were several great candidates again, but we'll do that right after we finish up the recaps and the look-aheads, and we'll start doing that right now. So our first pick for Game of the Week is really a no-brainer. It might be one of the biggest rivalries in the state, definitely one of the biggest rivalries in Shelby County. That's going to be Spain Park and Hoover this Friday night over at Jaguar Stadium. Spain Park's had to travel to the Hoover Met the past 2 years, so it'll be nice for them to have it back at home this year. Spain Park, a 3-0 start for the second consecutive year, 1-0 in area play after their 33-14 win over Vestavia this past Friday night. Spain Park's looked really good defensively, and they came into the year with that being their biggest concern, but they looked really good defensively so far. Gave up 19 in their opener to Gadsden City, and followed that up with 7 and 14 in their last two games respectively. So they're really balanced right now. Their offense is what they were so high on coming into the season. It showed why this past week when Braxton Barker has close to 200 yards passing, and the two running backs in Jalen Henderson and Diari Johnson go over 100 yards yet again. So they combined to go over 100 yards, I should say. But that's the kind of balance you need to beat a Hoover team that's always going to be athletic on both sides of the ball. But with Spain Park so balanced right now, not just offensively, but balanced between offense and defense, they've got a strong shot to knock off the Bucks this year. They've only won 2 times on the field head-to-head, and Hoover, for the longest time, didn't even consider this to be a rivalry simply because they handled the Jags with ease every year. That's kind of changed since head coach Sean Rainey came in and over from Hoover to be the head coach at Spain Park. They beat Hoover twice in that 2015 season on their way to the state championship. Things have changed at Spain Park. There's a higher expectation. They expect to win this game, which they didn't for the longest time. They went in with a different mindset. So Spain Park does have a young offensive and defensive line, and when that could be the difference maker in this game, because when you're going up against a team like Hoover, they're always going to have that athleticism up front on both sides of the ball. So that could be the key factor. I'm not sure if that's enough to lift them in a win here. I don't know where I'm going prediction-wise yet. I do think it's going to be 10 points or less by whoever wins, but I'll make my prediction this coming Tuesday in our Week 4 predictions. Right now, it just looks like a solid game. I expect nothing but the best from these two teams. They are two of the best in the state right now. I'm starting to lean that they'll finish 1 and 2 in the region, depending on what Thompson does. But those three teams, I think, will be the top 3 in that region. So a very big early season region matchup in week 2 of region play for these two teams, and it should be exciting to watch. I know they won't disappoint, but I'll look forward to seeing it out at Jaguar Stadium this Friday night. So our second game of the week is also a no-brainer. That's going to be Briarwood and Winona this Friday night in a huge rematch, probably the biggest rematch we'll see this season. These two teams have only met on the field twice. both coming last year. One in the regular season, Briarwood wins 15-14 on the road. That leads to a region championship as they finish region play undefeated a season ago. And then they go into the playoffs, a semifinal matchup. Winona takes that one at Briarwood's place 14-8 in another close, low-scoring game. A heartbreaker for the Lions to end the season. You know they've had this game circled on their schedule since the season started. I expect an amazing game here this Friday night. I really do think that both teams are going to keep it low-scoring again. In a low-scoring game, that tends to suit a team that can run the ball and wear down the defense. Both of these teams' defenses are stout right now. Consistency for Winona to start the season 2-0. They have a 39-12 win in their first game, a 38-12 win in their second game. So very consistent there. Briarwood's only given up 14 and 7 points in their first two, coming off a big win over Moody this past Friday night, 35-14. Both teams 2-0, both strong defensively. That tends to suit a running style better. I really like where this Briarwood running game is. Ayers at the quarterback position, 3 rushing touchdowns last week. J.R. Tranrino's gotten close to 100 yards in both of his games this season. I really like where they're at offensively from that standpoint. They need to work on their passing game just a little bit, but when they can run the ball, wear down that Winona defense, that's going to be huge. And with the excitement and the buildup that they have to want to win this game, I think they have a little bit more will and want than Winona will have. And that's going to lead to some big plays defensively. I would not be surprised by some turnovers being the key factor in this game with both of these defenses being so stout. I really like Briarwood to get redemption here. It's going to be another close game. I could see a 17-14, 14-10 kind of matchup here. But I just think Briarwood has that little extra edge that gives them the motivation. They'll be playing on their home field, which didn't matter last year in this matchup. But I do think Briarwood has the better chance, and it should create for an awesome game of the week. So another crucial game this week is going to be Thompson hosting Mountain Brook over at Larry Simmons Stadium. Another very big early region matchup between these two teams. Thompson coming in off a huge performance in a 63-22 win over Tuscaloosa County. They put up 49 points in the first half there. Mountain Brook coming off a tough loss to Hoover. They lose that one 31-21. But early in the season, they've shown some promise on offense, scoring 40-plus in their first two games, thanks to a tough running back in Harold Joyner. So it should be an interesting matchup this Friday night between these two teams in a big 7A Region 3 matchup. This could be the difference in a third, fourth, or second place finish in region play for one of these teams. And, looking at Thompson's offensive firepower, Talia Tagovailoa has been huge for them early in the season. Almost 800 yards passing already through just 2 games. This past week had 329 yards on 19 of 25, also throwing 4 touchdown passes, most of that coming in the first half. He has several playmakers to throw to, being Ahmad Edwards, Kyle Smoke, and Mo Edwards out there at the receiver position, as well as many others. But even more to help him out is the running game. This past week they combined, it was a little slow in game 1, but this past week combined for 216 yards between Shadrack Bird and Joseph Ford. If they can do that and open up more play action opportunities for Tagovailoa, this offense is one of the most dynamic in the state, and it's going to be very difficult for Mountain Brook to stop on Friday night. I look for Mountain Brook to use Joyner a lot to try to keep that Thompson offense off the field, go on long drives. I don't know how easy that's going to be. While Thompson's defense needs to improve a little bit, I haven't been as impressed with them as I wanted to be. They're still very, very good. Still one of the best defenses, not only in the county, but the state. And so it's going to be tough for Mountain Brook to have their way running the ball. Thompson knows that's what they need to key on and stop. And if they do that, they're going to win this one running away easily, in my opinion. I just think Thompson's offense right now is too dynamic. They're too explosive, and the defense to pair with that, it's just going to be an all-around difficult game for Mountain Brook, especially coming off that disappointing loss to Hoover this past Friday night. So I look for Thompson. Early in the game might be a little bit of a struggle, a defensive battle, but I look eventually for Thompson's offense to get going. They've clicked through 2 games so far. I don't see that changing this week at all. So I expect Thompson to win this one running away late in the fourth quarter. Another key region matchup is going to be Oak Mountain and Vestavia this Friday night, and Oak Mountain's got a really big chance to make a statement right now. They've started the season 3-0 for just the 3rd time in school history and are looking really solid on both sides of the ball. Vestavia's on the opposite end of the spectrum right now. They've struggled through their first 2 games, an 0-2 start, only put up 14 points this past week against Spain Park in a 33-14 rout. And then against Homewood in their opener gets shut out 6-0. Their offense is really struggling right now. Oak Mountain, on the other hand, coming off a big 31-0 shutout over Huffman this past week to start 3-0 for that third time in school history. And that's not what Vestavia needs to see right now. Oak Mountain's defense has been one of the better ones I've seen this year. And with the Vestavia offense struggling early in the season, that bodes well for Oak Mountain right now. Their defense should be able to handle Vestavia. This is a game Oak Mountain won 34-7 a season ago, and Oak Mountain was nowhere near as good as they are right now, and Vestavia is worse than they were at this point last year. So I fully expect Oak Mountain to kind of continue that trend. Right now, they are the team that can challenge. I think Mountain Brook is going to be that fourth-place team in Class 7A Region 3. Oak Mountain's their best challenger right now. They have a solid chance with their defense and the style of play that they run offensively. Oak Mountain's got a solid chance to slide into the playoffs again in that fourth place spot like they did a year ago. And they're really shaking things up. They could even challenge for the top of this region the way they're playing right now. I'm not sure they're there yet, but if they make a big statement against Vestavia on the road this Friday night, they can make that next step. It would be a huge 2-0 start in region play, 4-0 start overall. Mountain Brook's making a huge statement so far this year under Chris Bell, and I think they're just so balanced on both sides of the ball and really keep teams off guard with their option style attack. I like Oak Mountain to win this game big against Vestavia on the road. Pelham and Helena come into their rivalry matchup this Friday night in very interesting situations. Pelham has looked like the better team so far, but they're 0-1 in region play, 1-2 overall. While Helena gets a big 20-0 win over Chilton County this past Friday night, and they're now 1-0 in region play and 1-1 overall. So very interesting situation because Pelham's looked like the better team. They've lost two heartbreakers, however. Opening night to Homewood, they lose in the final 40 seconds. This past Friday night on the road at Benjamin Russell, they lose another 7-point game in the final 2 minutes as Benjamin Russell scores late to win that one 35-28. That being said, Pelham has looked very improved from a team that won this game a year ago, 27-23, and Helena's looked about the same, if not a little bit worse this year, despite their big win this past Friday night over Chilton County. So it's a very interesting matchup. Could go either way right now. I think Pelham's a little bit more talented, but can they rebound yet again like they did after their week 1 loss to Homewood? Can they rebound and get another win, and especially an important win in region play? This could go a long way for Pelham making a chance at making the playoffs. I think if they win this game, they're on their way to doing that. And I think Helena, if they can start off 2-0, this is a very interesting region that's a toss-up right now for those final 2 playoff spots with Wetumpka and Opelika looking like the top 2. So very important for both of these teams. I think Pelham might hold the edge talent-wise, but it should be an interesting matchup that comes down to the fourth quarter yet again. This is going to be a very important game for Chelsea this Friday night as they take on Benjamin Russell. This next 2-game stretch in general, as they take on Benjamin Russell this week, Pelham next week, very important for their season, their playoff hopes down the line. I think if they can win 1 or 2, they still have a shot at making the playoffs. They lose both, I don't think they do have a shot at making the playoffs. Chelsea showed a little bit more improvement offensively last week, putting up 22 points on Wetumpka. They lose that one 44-22. Their defense is what's been carrying them so far, and they struggled last week, which is not a good sign. They're going to have to keep playing well. I expect them to rebound this week. I also expect the offense to make some more improvements. This could be a closer game than a lot of people expect, but Chelsea really needs to show some promise if they want a chance at making the playoffs. Don't have to win this one, but they need to show a close game, and they do need to win next week if they do lose this one. This is a very important 2-game stretch for the Hornets right now. Coming off a 44-22 loss to the best team or one of the top 2 teams in the region isn't that bad and showed some improvement. So if they can keep doing that, they're going to be fine, but it is time to put it together and show some real improvement and keep this game within a possession or 2, hopefully. If they can pull off a win, that's big news for them. They're looking strong, but it's a very important game in the long scheme of things for Chelsea this Friday night. Clara has finally done it. They've done what I expected them to do the first 2 games of the season, which they won 1, lost 1. Should be 3-0 right now because that 1 loss came on a 29-27 game without their field goal kicker. A chance to win that one late, but with no field goal kicker, couldn't do it. Now they finally put everything together this past week. Defense, balance on offense. They win 53-7 over Dallas County. This is the Clara team I expected coming into the season, both defensively and offensively. Haven't given up a score on the defensive side of the ball in 6 quarters now. The only score in that Dallas County game came on a kickoff return. So Clara clicking on all cylinders right now this past week in that big win, putting up 53 points. Tyler Agnew, running back, and quarterback Quad Brown both have big games. They're doing this offensively without their leading rusher back, and D. Mickens, who's injured right now. He should be back either this week or the week after. But they take on Central this Friday night. Central 0-3, struggling, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I expect another big win for Clara, as they've just found so much balance right now on both sides of the ball. I expect them to run away with this one and another big win. The Shelby County Wildcats are coming off a very difficult 56-21 loss to St. Clair County, a game I thought they would win after putting up 51 points in their opener, and St. Clair County giving up 49 in their opener. So not the game that Shelby County wanted, especially offensively. They have a much better offense than showed up this past Friday night. They've got to get it clicking quick because they take on a Moody team that they really need to beat if they want to make the playoffs this year. It's the game that kept them out of the playoffs by losing 27-20 a year ago. I think these teams are fairly balanced right now. Moody's a little bit improved from a year ago. Shelby County should be improved, especially more so defensively and offensively than they showed last week. So I expect them to make those adjustments this week, have a better game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Whether they win or not, it's a toss-up right now. I'll make that decision on Tuesday in my Week 4 predictions as well. But right now, this is a must-win for Shelby County with their biggest game still ahead of them. I don't think I was more disappointed by anything this past Friday night than when I saw the final score in the Montevallo American Christian game. American Christian wins this game 51-6. It's a game Montevallo won last year 14-7. And Montevallo is just better than that, flat out. Offensively better, defensively better, much better defensively than to give up 51 points in their first region game of the season. That's something that can't happen. They're going into a game with BB Comer, who's given up 40-something points per game themselves. 0-2 BB Comer team that Montevallo has this Friday night. Non-region game, but very important for Montevallo to rebound, show that they're still a team that can win some games this year. With Gordo losing their opener, I thought this was Montevallo's chance to jump in and really take control of this region. They fall in their region opener to American Christian in a big way. They need to show some promise this Friday night before jumping back into region play the week after. So I still think, along with Oak Mountain and Pelham, that Vincent is probably the most improved team this year, the team that has excited me the most just from their turnaround. Last year only one win, but through one game this year, they were 1-0 with the 14-13 win over Pleasant Valley. The reward for that, they get Lafayette this past Friday night. Lafayette, last year's undefeated region winner in this region. So a tough matchup for Game 2 for Vincent, but they play hard. Only lose 24-8 in that one, down 12-8 at the half, but come out and fumble their first three possessions of the second half. That was the difference maker. They had a solid chance to win this game and really make a statement, but it's nothing to hang their heads over. They play tough. This week, however, they get the second place finisher in last year's region standings, as well as another ranked team in Lynette this Friday night. Lynette's only given up 7 points in their first game and 6 in their last 2 games, and are off to a solid 3-0 start. They're a very good team right now. It's going to be tough for Vincent offensively this week. I do think that they've played strong enough defensively and have showed some improvement offensively as well that they can keep this game low scoring and close again until halftime. They'll have a chance, but it's just going to be a really big hurdle to win this one. I do think, however, after this game, Vincent has a real strong chance to reel off some region games and make that final 4th playoff spot in the region standings and have a strong season. I still think Vincent can pick up 5 wins this season, and it's going to start with some improvement this week that I have a feeling they're going to show strong on Friday night. So it's time to name our third SCR Star of the Week for the 2017 season. There were several big standout performances this week, and there's actually going to be, just like our co-game of the week, there's going to be a co-SCR Star of the Week, simply because there were a couple of guys that really caught my attention, and one of which has already been named the SCR Star of the Week this season. So I wanted to kind of give somebody else an opportunity in there as well that also impressed me this past Friday night. A couple other guys before we get to those two. We had Luke Stamba. I want to give a shout out to him. Sophomore quarterback thrown into his first start for Helena in a big region matchup this past Friday night. He goes 12 of 25, 187 yards and a touchdown in a 20-0 win for the Huskies. Very important performance for him with Lawson Peoples out due to a dislocated shoulder. For him to come in and have that kind of performance at the last second, very impressive from the sophomore there at Helena. Also, Braxton Barker and Jalen McMillan, both at Spain Park. We'll start with Jalen McMillan. He had 92 receiving yards this past Friday night. He has 80-plus in each of his last 2 games now, as well as an 85-yard kickoff return 2 weeks ago as well. So he's looking strong out there at receiver for Spain Park, and he's got a great quarterback throwing to him, which helps out in Braxton Barker. Barker goes 12 of 16, 147 yards this past Friday night. He's looked solid and balanced this year, doing exactly what he needs to and what Spain Park needs him to as they head into a matchup with Hoover this Friday night. But now to our 2 big guys that are going to be named the SCR Star of the Week, and congrats to both of them. We'll start with Taulia Tagovailoa over at Thompson. Second time this season. He's played 2 games, already gotten 2 SCR Stars of the Week, and for very good reason. He goes 19 to 25 this past Friday night, 329 yards and 4 touchdowns. But the key is all of that mainly came in the first half as they were up. They put up 49 points in that first half against Tuscaloosa County, go on to put up 63. It also helps that their running backs Shadrick Bird, Joseph Ford, got into the mix of things as well, going for 216 combined yards. So Taulia Tagovailoa, congrats to him on his second SCR Star of the Week. We've also got another guy really impressed me Friday night. Starting running back at Clara is out in D. Mickens. He's injured. He'll be back hopefully this week or the week after. But Tyler Agnew comes in. He reels off 13 attempts, goes for 141 yards and a touchdown, 2 long runs as well. So he really impressed me this Friday night. And then Jermaine Ross, just behind him at Clara as well, also put up 83 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Eagles. So both of those guys behind D. Mickens at the running back position, with him back, they're set up to have another strong rushing year like they did last year, going with 3 backs over 700 yards. So congrats to both Tagovailoa and Agnew, as well as Jermaine Ross. Strong game for him and the other guys that I mentioned in this segment. It's been a strong season for everybody that I just mentioned, aside from Stamba, who came in for his first start. But I'm looking for big things moving forward. We have some very important region matchups this Friday night. If your guy stands out, if one of your units stands out, they're going to get named the SCR Star of the Week this next week, because this is the most crucial week I've seen in high school football since taking over this job. So should be a lot of fun. Good luck to everybody this Friday night. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. It's been a fun time, especially with the big matchups that we have coming up. So I hope to see you. Be on the lookout for our Facebook Live video this Friday night. I'll probably go out to Spain Park, do a segment there for our first game of the week, then travel just down the road over to Briarwood for another Facebook Live event. So be on the lookout for those this Friday night from our 2 games of the week. And then, as always, our great coverage on Friday night into early Saturday morning. We do a great job of getting stories from all of our games around the county. As always, it's been a pleasure, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to like and share and get word around, as we want to get as many teams recognized and players and stuff like that recognized around Shelby County. Thanks again, guys.